Cody Alexander, really excited to have you on. I'm telling you, Coach. I mean, I know you've written a few books, 3 books now, correct?
Yes, 3 books.
Yeah, three books, and I tell you, I'm a defensive guy, and Coach is on point with so many things, and the way he describes it, the way he teaches it, I could tell his kids benefit from the way that they structure things and install things, and just a really good communicator in that way. And so we're fortunate to have Coach here, and we'll turn it over to you, Coach, and you got it. Take it away, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks. So first thing we're going to talk about is the 4-2-5. So if you've read my first book, Cautious Aggression, basically talks about 4-2-5 structure, and then defending kind of the Art Briles system, is what I cut my teeth on working under Phil Bennett at Baylor as a GA. So everything that I talk about in that, we've been able to transition from a 3-down to a 4-down, back to a 3-down. So to me, one of my passions is corner play, but after that is a kind of opponent breakdown, and then the 4-2-5 is something that I really enjoy doing. So I'm going to share my screen here a second. Let me get to my – all right. So I'm going to go through quarters basics, tags that we use, split field coverages from a 4-2-5, and kind of go from there. Basic pedagogy. So when I'm starting day one, the first thing that we're going to do from the linebackers to the secondary is be able to count to 3. The offense can only send 5 guys out. So there's always going to be a midpoint, and that midpoint is always going to be number 3. So whether it's trips or whether it's 2x2, we're going to find 3. And wherever 3 is, that's where we're going to relate it. So the next question I always get is, well, what if it's middle of the field, pistol 2x2? Well, that's a rare occasion. And if it's that way, then we usually will set the front to is the offense more right hand or left hand out of that formation. So it really doesn't matter to me. The things that you're starting to see now, and I know more and more teams are doing this, is because everything is predicated on the back and finding that third guy. A lot of teams now are waiting at the very end to move that back. For me, 2x2 is really the only one that it matters, and only out of 10 personnel. And so now you have to start thinking, how often are you actually seeing 10 personnel, 4 wide receivers with a pistol back? If that's the case, then you kind of, again, it goes back to, are they left-hand, right-hand dominant, and understanding front structure, which I'll talk about front structure here in a second. So to me, that's usually the question that I get next is, okay, well, what about pistol? If there's a tight end, you should be setting the strength to the tight end as a camp rule. If you get Y off, you should be setting it, we usually are going to camp rule. We're going to set the front to the Y. And again, I'm going to talk through 11 personnel and Y off. I've got all of that. So to me, again, 10 personnel pistol, I'm not necessarily worried about that. Where teams are trying to do with that is starting to, those teams that are blitzing the back, that's where you're starting to see the pistol moving the back up. Trying to get you, because a lot of these blitzes are formationally based, and a lot of it is predicated on the back. So understand, I'm going to still count to 3 in 2x2 pistol, but we're going to find that third guy, and everybody's going to relate off that, because again, that goes to split flow and load flow, which I'll talk about here in just a second. The second part is, who's the cap? So who in the coverage is going to be the top of the coverage? In quarters, it's usually the corner. In cover 2, it's the safety. So understanding who's the cap, who's the intermediate, and who's the flat defender is crucial in all of your coverages. Basically creating layers. Who do I match and who do I key? I'm always going to tell my kids who you're matching this guy. And it usually goes like this. The corners are always going to match number 1. They're going to key number 2. The safeties are going to match number 2, and they're going to key number 2. They're going to key their man. The modern offense is built off the slot. The slot's going to tell you a lot of things, whether he's going to block, whether he's going to go out, whether he's going to go in. If he usually goes in, somebody's coming from the other direction, or you're getting a vertical from number 1. If the slot goes out, you're usually getting a vertical of number 2 coming back in. So again, the slot predicates a lot of the things that we're going to do. That's why we key it. outside linebackers are always going to they're going to key the mesh, but they're going to match number 2. And then Mike always keys and matches number 3. So his key might be the guards to the backfield, but he's going to relate and match to number 3 in coverage. And so, again, that changes the way that you structure your front and then structure your defense. The next thing you need to know is split flow versus load flow. This is where teams get beat in coverage, because everybody thinks that the secondary is the only people that cover, and then the linebackers are just kind of there. And so I go back to my my buddy Dub Maddox. He always says and he's the guy who's the R4 guy. If you cap it, they'll snap it. And what that means is if you top the route by the secondary, they're just going to snap it off, and they're going to option it, and that guy's he's going to get to a certain depth and he's going to stop, because what they're assuming is that you're not coaching your linebackers on where to go in the secondary when you have pass. So understanding split flow versus load flow, that's going to be your take back rules. And take back is who's got the crossers that's coming back. Shallow in 2x2, drive in 3x1, mesh in any formation, who are taking these crossing routes. And that back, and really the number 3 receiver, is the one that you're going to have. The other thing that I like to do on this split flow load flow is the back in 2x2, the back is wherever the back is, that's going to be your load flow side. They're loading that, they can load the coverage that side because they can push the back. So that tells that outside linebacker and the Mike linebacker, hey, we need to communicate and we need to tell each other push alert, meaning that back can push out. And if he does, the outside linebacker is going to take it, and then the Mike will work to his new number 3, which would be the slot receiver. So basically taking that seam through. What that tells the will linebacker, because remember, we're talking about a 4-2-5, so we have our 4-man rush. We only have seven coverage men in the distribution. So the will linebacker now knows, with the running back away from me, I have take back. I have to take back anything that is going into the middle of the field, because the Mike is going to open and relate to number 3, and 3 is pushing away from me. And so again, understanding split flow and load flow and understanding how we're going to match that up underneath is going to be crucial for the coverage. It can't just be the secondary players. And the way that I teach it there is that the secondary is going to cap the verticals. I've got 4 receivers. I've got 4 DBs. Any kind of vertical route, I'm going to cap it by them. We're going to stay on top. We are going to get support underneath. And so to me, that is crucial. And another way of going on it, and especially to the boundary, if the back is away, is I tell wherever the passing strength is, that guy, the outside linebacker, usually the will, has to understand, okay, I'm the final fourth or I am the first to flat. And it doesn't really matter in coverage. Now, cloud coverage or 2 read, he's not going to take the flat because that's going to be the corner. But he's still got to understand that I have the first to flat. Well, if it's 2x2 and I have a second receiver, then I've got to make sure that I push with him and I will take him back, especially if 3's away. So I got to be able to count. I got to be able to count back. If I get a trips, then I'm the final fourth. So either the running back, he's going to be on my side. So let's say the running back's to the X receiver side. Well, then I've got 2 guys on one side. I'm going to be the first to flat. So if the running back pushes to the flat, I got to take it. If the running back is to the trips, which would make a quad set, then I know that I am going to be the final fourth. So I will take the final crosser, and I need to open up again because it's too weak. And you'll see in my diagrams, I always label the running back as either 3 or 2 weak, regardless if it's quads or if it's 2x2. So now let's transition, because everything starts on the front. Your front predicates the plays that you're going to get. So if you're a shade team or if you're a G team, if you've got your nose in a 2-eye, if you go with double 2s, if you play with 2 Gs, all of that's going to dictate how you play it. Do you play with a heavy technique on your 5 to the nose, or do you single gap fit it? Again, that's going to dictate what you're going to get, because it dictates what's the second level going to do. So if I play a G, then I know that I've kind of spread my anchor points out, and to me, I like a G more than I like a shade. If we're going to get a lot of gap schemes, then I'll play a shade because I want to control that center and I want to press everything to the gap. If I get in a lot of zone, I want to spread that out and I want to play a G, because now that center has to step either to the G or he's going to step away and he's going to try and climb. But the moment that he tries to climb, that G now can cut off from the center's backside, and he can basically eliminate both A gaps. And this is where you get the belly key concept that I talk about. So again, I like a G against modern spread teams. I'm gonna play a G. Now the heavy technique is very simple. If I get engaged by the tackle, okay, it's a base block, and the tackle is base blocking out on me. All I'm going to do is engage and rip into the B gap. I've got to cancel the B gap. Now my alignment, though it says 5 technique, it is going to be a heavy 5, heavy to the point that it's almost a 4 technique. So I kind of call it like a 4-0. You know, you've got your 4-I. Well, we've got a 4-0. If I've got the nose and I know I'm playing heavy, I got the 4-0. And the next question is, well, what happens if you get stretched? Well, if I get zoned, okay, I need to engage, and that's why you tell them to engage the tackle first. If I engage the tackle, but I just happen to get in zone, then I need to climb and penetrate, especially in full flow, especially when I see stretch. So that's kind of the heavy technique part of it. And then obviously understanding cover downs. That one of the biggest mistakes teams make is that the overhang to the running back side is in the fit. He can't be in the fit. And by in the fit means he can't be in the box. He can be your force player, but he cannot be actually in the box with a fit. He can't be so aggressive that you're just opening it up, because then you might as well just send him on a blitz. The other thing that teams need to start doing, the modern 4-2-5 that everybody, the kind of that everybody's been doing now for the last 10 years, everybody's kind of figured that out. Offenses have now figured that out. And so now what you need to start doing is changing the leverage point, maybe playing a little bit of bracket with the overhang outside leverage. And now he's kind of funneling everything to that safety. Now the safety is the one that's the force player. You can also play regular sky coverage or quarters coverage, but move the guy outside. And being able to do some different things and changing the leverage points and changing the way that things look. I think stemming the front pre-snap is great. I think changing the front post-snap is great as well. And I'll never forget, I learned this from Phil Bennett, and he got this from Bill Snyder at Kansas State. And if Bill Snyder says it, then it's basically like Moses is saying it. It ain't the word of God, but it's pretty dang close. And Bill Snyder said the worst thing that you can do is move post-snap, because we're already assuming what you're in. Your anchor points are set. So we've already decided how we're going to block something pre-snap. The moment you change post-snap, that changes the look. It can change everything from, if you go what I call blood, and you have basically go from a G and a 3 and you change it to the other way. So you go from an over to an under, or an under to an over post-snap. Well, that changes the whole blocking, because where they assume that you're going to have the heavy 5, he's now contained. Now the guy that looked like he was contained, now he's a heavy 5, and now he can cancel that B gap. So it changes even too when it comes down to option. It changes the option reads, zone read. I mean, still everybody's still running zone read. So it changes the way that you get that. It also can change the fits. It can change the linebackers, and it can change. And what I like about post-snap movement too is that it basically eliminates anybody climbing. And if they do climb, somebody's coming unblocked up front, and there's your penetration. The last thing on your anchor points, I'm a big believer in a field call. If I get the ball on the hash and I get any kind of 2x2, 10 personnel, I'm setting the 3 technique to the field. I still believe in I want to eliminate motion from the offense. I don't want them to be able to motion. I don't want that in their toolbox. The moment that you start going if you start going passing strength, is that the next thing you're going to get is you're going to get motion. You're going to get quick motions. You're going to get things that are going to bring that Sam linebacker into the box. So for me, I'm just going to keep them to the field, and I'm going to protect the field. If I'm going to give them a conflict player, it's going to be into the boundary. That's where it's going to be. I'm going to put them in limited space. I've been blessed the past 3 years. I've worked at a school that runs the flex bone. So getting to learn firsthand how to run the option and then how to defend it has really kind of helped me as a coach when I go and I look at modern spread, because all the modern spread it's all these rules about space and manipulating who is the read player. And so for me is the one knock on Flexbone is that you can actually, as a defense, dictate where they're going to run the ball. So for me as a spread, when I'm going up against a spread, I want to dictate where that conflict is going to be. And and most of the time in a 2x2 10 personnel set, I'm going to make you play into the boundary. The word is spread. They're running these spread offense because they're trying to spread you out for space. So I'm going to constrict space as much as possible on defense. Now, in trips, our check is going to be under, meaning that the 3 technique is going to be away from the 3 receivers. And the reason I do that is to gain a cover down on the mic. I'm different than a lot of guys. In trips, a lot of guys want to slam the safety away from the trips into the box. They want to give him like the A gap. And now most of us know very rarely in a gun or in spread are they hitting the A gap in a zone, unless they're running pistol. But what I don't want is to take my post player and move him down into the A gap, because what I've now created is I've created even more conflict. It's a lot easier for my mic to just hang on the outside of the box and just kind of sit in that snag or slant window and let that heavy 5 close the B gap than it is for my safety at 10 yards, who I will hope is in the post hole, to now slam down into the box and push everybody over. So, or what people call slinging the fits. I'm more on the line of like how Aranda plays it, where that guy is going to now be a post player, and he's going to play from the table down. So by putting the 3 and the 5 away from the trips, I've allowed that safety to play the alley. And now he can be slower to fit, or he can cap inside the box. And so for me, that is why I like an under front. Okay, so enough about the front. Let's start talking about actual coverage. So this is kind of how I teach it, and I'll go from the field all the way to the boundary. So here we have an over front. We have set we have a field call. So you can see here we have a field call. It's a just sky, and we're playing mod coverage. Means mod for me is everybody's off. Now you can play press bail out of mod, and that's perfectly fine with me. But we're going to play mod, usually camp rules, and this is how I'm going to teach it. Camp rules, we're going to start right here, and it's going to be 6 yards inside. We're going to slide off. We're matching 1 to 2. I'm going to key to the Sam has a cover down. He's going to match number 2, and he's going to push, meaning that if 2 goes out, he's got him. Okay, so if 2 goes out, this cover safety or the field safety is going to snap his eyes to 1. So 2 goes out, he knows he's going to push. Now the reason why he can push is because he is out of the fit. He does not have a box. He does not have a box fit. He is the crease player, and he is the alley player. So what I want is anytime I want that safety to play the alley as much as possible, because for me that's a slower fit. Okay. The quicker fit is the crease. That's why, in bracket, the Sam has to take number 2 up and back, because that safety is now that crease player. He's got to be quick. So this is basically what we're going to do. Most of the time, and my kids, I don't call coverages during the game. I let the kids call it, and they call it off split. So as I put here, wide equals sky coverage. We're going to play quarters. These guys are wide. He's on the typical camp rule alignment. He's on the hash. He is on the top of the numbers. He's got to ask the question, can I get to number 1? If I can't get to number 1, then I am not playing. I'm not playing cloud. I'm not playing palms. I'm not playing 2 read. We are playing sky coverage, which is quarters. Okay. Cover safety is going to be at 10 yards. He's going to have a step off. That's his read steps. Everybody's got read steps because we're reading for quick game. He's got fit support. Now, what does fit support mean? Well, let's say this Sam gets dug out by the slot, okay, and he ends up outside. Now, that Sam's okay. He now knows, okay, I'm going to contain it, and as I'm sinking down on the run, now I've got to fit the crease. So all that is fit support. I'm fitting off of what I see. Okay, I've got my 3 and my 5 right here. I've got a 0 Mike. Okay, he can be right here. I like him in a 0 because now he can play either side. Okay, if I get over here, I know that end's going to kind of set the wall. I'm stepping to my gap. If I get zone over here, I'm fitting it. If it bounces front table, I can belly key all the way out. I like a nose and a G. So, coach, what if it's kind of middle of the field and I get this look and that will has to apex, and these guys are wide, and we're going to play sky over here. What do? Well, if I get a wide call, if it's too wide, I can automatically rip this guy. So what does that look like? All this stuff that these guys are talking about, and mint and tight and all that stuff, you basically get to mint front. So if I rip it, he's going to go from a 4-0 or a heavy 5, and he's going to get in that 4, and he's just going to rip B gap right now. So middle of the field plus a wide split, I'm going to rip it right now. He's going to give a rip call, okay? And he knows I'm going to rip right now. And that Mike and that Will, because a lot of guys don't have their D lineman. It's like, well, we try and tell our D lineman they can't hear anything. Well, that Will and that Mike always have to be communicating, because they got to communicate with 3. These guys are getting push alert, okay? These guys, he knows it's split flow. He knows he's got take back, so he's got to communicate with that Mike. Hey, I'm too wide. Hey, I'm gone, rip, rip, rip. And that Mike and these guys should be yelling into each other, rip, rip, rip. So nothing changes to the backside. Now, most of the time, if I get sky, let's say I want to run sky into the boundary, we'll give a switch alert and we'll play it like box. So if we don't want to we're getting a lot of switch verticals. That was real big, probably at the turn of the decade. So like around 11, 12, 13, running switch verticals into the boundary, trying to get these guys to sit flat and then try and outrun them. Well, you can still run sky into the boundary, but you got to give a switch alert, and that basically just makes it play like box. And that guy just knows I just need to hold the seam in case anybody actually does come and run a slant. So that's how you can run sky into the boundary. It just basically ends up playing like box, where he kind of pushes curl to flat. He's on rails and he's on rails. Now, a lot of guys play quarter halves. I don't, because I don't ever want to dictate what the actual coverage is. The kids are going to run the coverage and they know the rules. And so that's where I'm at with that. Okay. The next adjustment is, okay, coach, I want to be really aggressive, and I want to press, and I want to play press man. Well, this has a smash rule. If I get this guy tempo down, I'm going to yell smash. I'm going to work. Okay. I'm going to try and get over the corner. I'm going to try and work. If I'm getting a lot of nowadays, everybody wants to run smash with the A seam. If I'm getting that, then this guy knows he's taking the corner and he can hang on that hash looking for this guy coming up, because it's hard for that Mike to fit the run and also carry number 3 vertical. If you got a guy that can run, and I've had guys that could, then we just play coverage. If not, then you can kind of keep him on the hash and let him really sink underneath that corner. Okay, but going back to what my MAG tag is. So mod is kind of loose, man on demand. Okay, I'm off. I'm watching number 1. If number 1 comes vertical, I've got him. If number 1 goes underneath right now, let's say they just run like a shallow right now, I'm releasing them. Let's say we want to get really physical with the outside receivers and we want to just bracket the slots. Well, now I can play press man, and these guys know I'm only matching number 1, and it's MAG coverage. Man, everywhere he goes. This is Narduzzi, D'Antonio. This is Venables 4 lock. This is, I think a couple other people call it lock. This is your lock 4. This is press man. There's no smash rule. I don't like my corners to have to press and then have to worry about getting to the corner. I just think that it's too difficult. I would rather, if we're going to man it and we're going to press, then let's press and let's just live with it, especially if we're playing sky coverage. So nothing changes for anybody else other than this guy. Some people will hug in their MAG coverage. They'll just basically play it kind of like blitz coverage, and they'll hug this guy in an apex, and he basically has a slant, and then he has the out if they want to really hug the box with that. But to me, nothing really changes other than the safety is going to be a little bit more aggressive, because we're canceling out number 1. So even if I get a post, I don't care. I'm going right now with number 2. That way you can hug the box a little bit. Okay, let's talk about cloud. Normally, like I said earlier, we talk about cloud coverage. That's when we get the tight alignments to the inside. And so all that's going to do is that corner is going to go from 6 yards to 5 yards. I teach a square stance and we feather out. As your kids get good and they start understanding coverage, I'll let them feather from an open stance, which is basically like a kick step that you see, or similar to a scooch technique or the step off by the safeties. and the offense doesn't really know whether we're playing cloud or sky. And the other thing is that he's going to be head up to inside depending on the split of the receiver. Now, if it's a huge reduction, then he's going to be outside. We obviously have dividers and we have split rules. Split rules are our coverage, and then dividers are telling us wherever he is in relation to the hash or the numbers are leverage. Now, the one thing that does change is that he's going to now deepen up to about 11 to 12, and he's going to still get a step off, but he's going to fast bail out of there because he's got to be able to top number one. Okay. Now he's going to be late push. He doesn't have to push anymore because the flat defender is the corner. So if 2 goes to flat, he's going to jump it. Okay. So understand now that the will has to know, okay, it's cloud. That basically means I've got the seam. I'm just working the seam, and the safety is going to top the coverage. Intermediate, top, I've got the flat if the back were to come to me. Okay. Now, what do we do when the back is set into the boundary? And this comes down to, this is one of the tags that we have out of cloud, which is cut. Cut is we're basically playing triangle. Okay. I've got seam, I've got the flat, I've got the cap. Now, most of the time when you get 3 into, I'm going to ask right now, is it bunch? And I'm going to look at the tendency. If they're running a bunch of, like, let's say the pick with the corner, they're running Y corner, air raid Y corner. I've got the corner, I've got the pick, and then I'm pushing to the flat. Well, he's going to hold the hash. He's going to zone over the flat, and he'll take the corner, and he'll try midpoint. So what we'll do is we'll treat this like bunch, and we'll just triangle it, and we'll play cut. Now, cut is not trap. He's not trapping. He's not working in at the snap of the ball. He's just basically going to be a hard corner right there, and he's not going to carry any vertical. So you have to be careful if you call cut. It's kind of like if you tell a kid that he's got the flat, that kid's going to sit in the flat. He's not going to carry the vertical. So what you don't want is to call cut, and then you get 2 verticals. That guy's going to have to play trail technique and then fall off and cut. So be cognizant. If this guy, we play a lot of teams, they don't even know. They're just calling a formation and the guy's lining up. So we've played a lot of teams where this isn't bunch. They don't release the back. Or they do verticals and they just flare the back to try and get the corner to sit. We're not doing that. The backers take the back. So if you're just trying to decoy this guy and run verticals here, well, then we're just going to play regular cloud. But we want to be alert to be able to play cut if we're going to get some sort of kind of rub concept or a levels concept where we're getting different looks out of that. So we will treat this like bunch. So that is one of the tags that we have off of that. Now, this is a coverage. We worked it last year, but we didn't have a true nickel. We played more of a 3-4 with 2 outside linebackers, but we could play it in super rotation. So we worked it in super rotation. All super rotation means is that the sand's attached to the box and you just super rotate your safeties. But the way that I teach bracket, and I think bracket is something that everybody should look into because it changes the leverage point of this guy. So if you're getting a lot of horizontal pushes, you're getting bubbles, you're getting more or less kind of like the snags, you're getting things going out, then bracket would be really nice, especially if you got a field safety that's your best safety. And usually your field safety is your best safety. So he's going to be outside eye. He's got anything by number 1, he can cut by number 2, he can cut number 1. Any out, he's going to push with it. Bubble, out route, he's taking it. Anything vertical, he's taking it to the safety. He's funneling it. So you're basically playing, and we'll get to this when we talk trips, you're basically playing cone over number 1. If 2 goes inside, you can have him cut aggressively, or you can have him trail, depending on what you're getting over here. If you're getting a bunch of Y over, okay, and they're sitting this guy in the curl, I'm cutting the guy. If we're getting a lot of divide, what I call divide or air raid shakes, where this guy's going to the middle of the field, he's attacking vertical, and then he's attacking vertical, and they're doing it out of 2 backs, or they're running some sort of fade out scheme over here. Then I'm going to have him trail. We're going to cone it or we're going to cut it. And you just gotta make sure that those, or swipe it is what it should be. So, because you don't want to call it cut because cut's 2. So, we're either going to cone it or we're going to swipe it. And we'll tell those guys that that's a game plan, because I think you have to be able to have within each coverage a way to manipulate it. And all we're doing is interchangeable parts. Swipe, those guys know swipe because swipe's telling him to work the next guy over. So swipe, we have swipe in the vernacular, so they know swipe, and then they know when to trail. And so all that is bracket, and that's just another way of playing. That's another way of playing sky coverage. Or this guy's outside leverage, he's inside leverage, and so it changes it. He's still got any kind of out. He can go post control. So again, it plays anytime 2 goes out. It plays just like sky. If it goes in, now he's hammering down on it. So he's going to hammer down on any in cut. He's going to play sky if it's any kind of out cut, and it's going to be a flat foot read. So we're just coning number 2, and that's bracket. Okay, coverages and how do we set everything up? Everything is formation based. Wide receiver splits dictate the coverage. Okay, understand alignment and routes you are going to get. So the way that you align, that dictates the routes that you're going to get. If you set your overhang outside of number 2, you're going to get a lot of in-cutting routes because there's a lot of space. They're attacking the space. If you set your guy inside, you're going to get a lot of horizontal pushes. If you attack that overhang and you attach him to the box and he is quick on play action, you're going to get, again, a lot of snags, a lot of slants behind him. You're going to get things that are going to make that safety come down and tackle into space. And so going back over it, if I get wide splits, we're playing sky. If I get close, then we're playing cloud. Okay, so you kind of think about this like wide open sky. And then if it's close, see, I got cloud. Okay, so let's talk about what everybody's dealing with right now, and that's 11 personnel, Y on, and then we'll get to 11 personnel, Y off. And I'll never forget it. I was at Baylor for RG3. If you go back and you look at that, that's a heavy 10 personnel. Heavy 10 personnel. I mean, there were 4 wide receivers on almost every snap of the ball. I would say probably 75-80% of the snaps at Baylor were going to be 10 personnel with RG3. But we had the wide receivers to do it. Go to a 12, we start mixing in the tight end more. Go to 13, 14, 15, when that offense explodes before Seth Russell got hurt in 15. The whole deal was he put a tight end on the ball. And once you put a tight end, that starts dictating. A lot of you guys right now, when you put a tight end in the game, okay, that's a run set. Now we're going to be super aggressive. I might bring a safety down. We might spin to cover 3. We might go to single high. What you've done now is that you've now made it easy for them, and you've opened up space on the edges, and now you've opened it up for them to pass. Okay, so 11 personnel pro. That means tight ends on the ball, 2 by 2. What are we doing? I'm looking right now. Is a tight end a receiving threat, or is he a glorified tackle? I've seen both. We've played a team this year that their H-back was their best player. So we're going to always make sure somebody is on top of him. I played another team where they're trying to get it to their 5-star receiver, and they're using their tight end as a decoy. So even though he may be running down the field, he had like 2 catches on the whole season. So understand that I need to know, is a tight end a receiving threat, or is a tight end a blocker? Okay, do they RPO the 2 receiver side, or are they just handing it off? Are they just playing play action? Are they more pro style? Are they play action, or are they going to RPO it? If they're going to RPO it, we're going to cheat it. And I'll explain what cheat is. The next question, is Z a stud? The Z receiver or the flanker is the receiver to the tight end side. Is that guy a stud? Because if he is, now it changes how you're going to defend that that tight end and that receiver. Because you have to have the ability to double that receiver, but then take care of the tight end. Because most good teams, if you're going to leave a man uncovered, they're going to throw the guy the ball. We ran into this year where I'm yelling to my guys, cone the Z, because the kid's a 4 or 5-star kid. Yet my sophomore safety, he didn't understand. He goes, I can't cone, I've got a tight end. So he waves me off, and what do? They throw basically the old Baylor special where you get a sit down at 10 by the tight end, and you get a post by the Z. And so that safety hammers down. my corner takes one misstep and it's a touchdown. And so for me, the kids have to understand too that I know that kid's a stud, but I've got to relate that to the kids, and that you can't be so rigid when you put a tight end, because I think that is the next transition for defenses now, is that we've got to start looking at 11 personnel and Y off differently, and starting to study it and find out, what are they doing? Can I put a linebacker on the tight end because he's a decoy? Can we play with that? Can we leverage that? And who do we really need a double? And then running back to the tight end, do we get a bunch? Just like 10 personnel 2x2, if the back is set to the boundary, are we treating it like bunch, or are we playing regular? Okay, so this is typical tight end on the ball. It's primary run. What are we going to do? Well, I'm going to get a full cover down. So I'm always going to protect the sand. So we are going to cheat. We're going to cheat to the two receivers. We're going to push everybody over one. So our end is going to be in a 6, and he's going to fall into that C gap. Okay. The reason why I like that is that if you get a lot of, let's say, a dart, or you're getting a lot of power, I don't want them to have that angle to just wash that guy down. I want him to kind of control it and really make that kind of eat two blockers off at once, because that tackle is going to have to step down to that 3 and kind of eat those two blockers all at once and control that tight end. If I'm getting a lot of buck, then I'm putting that guy in a 9, and then now he becomes primary support. Okay, again, I'm always trying to fight to get that safety into the alley. You can easily move him into a 5 if you feel like that gives you more of an angle. But I like a 6 and just kind of control that. All it is your lag technique that those guys talk about with the 3 down guys talk about with a 0 nose. You're just engaging and falling off into and kind of controlling that guy. And 2, if this guy's a tight end and he's trying to do a lot of this arc release or go vertical, I want hands on that guy. Now we're going to flat foot it at 10, and we're going to play from the table. I don't want to sink him into the box, because then we might as well just be playing cover 3. It's an automatic sky when we get this. Okay. And then we're playing our regular rules over here. So nothing changes, and the box doesn't change. You can put your guys in 30s. Okay. And you put them in 30s because if let's say we get stretched back this way, or we get bucked this way, it really just helps those guys fall back underneath. And you should be able to top everything with your down safety. Okay. So that's just regular pro. Okay. Now, how can we play cloud or cut or anything like that when we get this? So if we get this, now I want to be able to play some cloud if the back is to that. So the other thing that we can do here is let's say that they're doing a lot of fade outs and they're trying to get their big stud tight in. They're just trying to get you to be in sky, and they're trying to run. They're just trying to run you down. And this guy's just a decoy. Let's say they're tied in as a stud guy. I need to be able to play cover 2 to that. If I want to play cover 2, then he needs to either get in a 5 or we're going to give a rip call. Okay. And if I give a rip call, that Will knows now I don't have to get all the way over here. I don't have to protect that C gap in case the end were to get outside. So now he can tighten down to a 2 or a 20. And then he can step down, and now he's secondary support, and he's still reading 2 to 1. Now you can give a cut call, and we can play this just like cut. Okay, where if we're getting true Y corner, he's here, he's in the slant hitch. Okay, he's running corner and he's pushing flat. We can get the 3-on-3, and we can go ahead and play cut to that. So you can play cloud or you can play cut when you get that. Here we can play cloud. We're not going to play cut. Here we got to decide: do we play cut? So we're going to triangle their triangle. The whole. Starting with the West Coast offense in the 70s, everything is dictated on triangles for the offense. So if your coverages aren't layered and built like triangles, then it's going to be really hard for you to then equip yourself to defend some of these pass concepts. So again, here we have cloud. So we're getting a lot of maybe he's blocking. That's the other thing. He's blocking. We're getting a lot of fade with a push, with a play action, and they're keeping 6 guys in. Well, if that's the case, then we're gonna let him fall off to the back. He's got the post. He's gonna make sure nothing comes back inside with the slant. So anytime you're playing, that's why you want to have cloud. for all those, let's say the running back and Z exchanges, they're treating this basically like a blocker, and then yet they're trying to get the back out and play some rub schemes with these guys. If that's the case, then you can play cloud. Cut is a bunch check. So just make sure you know the difference, and you have a difference. You want to be able to play the different things. Okay? If we're going to treat it like bunch, going to cut, we're going to treat it like bunch. Now we're going to play cut. Okay? So now that means he's just basically going to sit, and he's keying 3. If 3 comes to him, he's taking him. If 3 blocks, I'm taking 1. If 3 comes out, I got him. And now I've got the corner and I've got the push, and that lets that will kind of sit in there, and he's just reading his guard to 3. So if 3 flies out of there, he knows now I got to push with him, and I'm looking for 1 coming back inside. So that's cut, and that's cloud. Okay. Now, what do we do when we got the stud Z? And this guy's a blocker, he's a decoy. I'm not worried about him. Okay, what you can do in cone is we're going to tam it, because he's got to get to that guy. He's now going to be responsible in cone. He's got to be responsible for that guy. So he's got to widen out a bit. So if we're going to, remember, he just has to relate to that guy. He's a decoy. He's a blocker. Or it's a 3rd and long situation, and they're going to leave this guy in here to block. So if we're going to do that, then we're going to tam it, and tam just means tackle to A. So he's going to tam it. He's going to engage as much as he can and fall off to the 5, and then he's going to read it. He's going to read mesh right here. If he gets a cone call, he's got to read the mesh. If it's pass, then I need to fly over to 2. I'm checking 2. If 2's going vertical, I know I've got to go. If he pushes out, I've got to chase it. So you could even cheat him over a bit if you need to put him in a 40. And you can do that. The reason why I still want a 30 is because I don't want them to know I'm tamming it. If I move him out to a 40, well, then they know that I got to close this somehow. So they either know that I'm doing something over here, I'm either blitzing or I'm tamming it. So I want him in a 30, and he's got to be able to relate to 2. And I'll look, if this is a stud, this guy's a decoy, they're just running him to flat, man, we'll rally to that. Okay, especially if it's a 3rd down. And usually we're not going to cone it unless it's like a 2nd and long, a 3rd down, and we know we're getting past, or a situation where, hey, they haven't ran pro all day long, and now they come out in the second half and they put their stud over here, and we know we're getting the post route. Now we're going to cone. Okay, and all cone is the corner's going to play the fade, the safety's going to play the post. So if I end up getting the fade right now, he's outside leverage, he's sliding off, and he's taking the fade. Okay, if he gets an inside stem, he's running the post. Now he knows that safety is going to take that, and now I'm going to choke the route. Choke just means I'm going to work outside in. I'm going to choke the route and trail. Okay, and so basically you end up if it's a post, it ends up looking like 2-man. If it's a fade route, then it ends up corners taking it, and now I'm looking for anything. I'm going to close the post, and I'm going to look for anything, or I'm reading mesh, and I can come off and play the run. So that's your 3 ways to really play that. You got cloud, you got cut, and you got cone. Okay, now let's transition to Y off. And this is really the one that most everybody's seeing. Okay, Y in the C area. Is he in the box, or is he attached to the box? Is he in the core or in the C? Option or power. That's how you're going to set the front. If they're an option team and you're getting a lot of arcs, you're getting a lot of, you're getting things where it's they're arcing it and they're running zone read arc, then I want to set the front away. I want to be in an under, because I want that heavy 5 slamming down on the running back, and I want my Mike to be able to attack that tight end as quickly as possible and read that quarterback. If you're getting power gap schemes, understand. A lot of teams, they're running counter GY. Well, if they're running counter GY and then I want to set the 3 away from the tight end. And sometimes you can do it predicated off the back, like set the 3 to the back. A lot of teams, if they're stacked, they're running same side power. If they're split, they're running same side counter. So what are they doing when that Y is off? Are they trying to attack downhill and do a bunch of same side stuff? Or when they're split, they're running power. when they're on the same side, they're running counter. You know, that's what you got to understand. A lot of offensive coordinators will usually pick one. They want downhill same side where the pole is coming to the back, or they want it split. And they either want to run same side counter, but they want power to bounce. So just something to think about as you go along is, if it's option, we probably want to set, and who do you want to get the ball? If the running back is a dude, then you want to make it to where the quarterback always carries the ball. You know, so if the running back is a stud and I want the quarterback to run, then I'm going to make sure that 5 technique, that nose and that 5 are set to the back so that we're crashing that thing down, and that D end is hammering that running back on every play, and that quarterback's having to pull it. And if the quarterback is their stud, then I want to force them to give that to the running back. Because if the running back can't hurt me, then that's who needs to carry the ball. And then finally, does the running back matter in the passing game? If the running back matters in the passing game, then now we got to start talking about numbers. We got to start talking about leverage, and I'll talk about that, especially to the single receiver side. Okay, so he's in the C area. We're going to get our 3-on-2. Now we're going to have to poach this. So we're going to treat it just as if this was a tray set. And the reason why I didn't put tray up there was because I was going to talk about it here. If he's on the ball, now we're going to set it away. If he's off the ball, we can get anything, so we're going to go ahead and set it to him. So you've got to understand the difference between, is it tight end on the ball or is it tight end off the ball? If he's on the ball, it's our 3-by-1 rules. He's going to be in an under. If the tight end's off the ball, we're at 2-back rules, and now we're going to set it to the H-back. So you've got to know, too, what you're getting. A lot of guys won't pull a tight end when he's on the ball. So if he's not pulling the tight end, we want max cover down. To me, tray is more of a passing set. Anytime we get trips, that's more of a passing set than it is a running set for me anymore. So we're going to poach this. Y is in the core. It means I've got poach control, post control, and we can even play games. So if Y is in the C, and I'll talk about that here in a second. If Y is out, then we're going to treat it like tray, and we're going to poach it. Now, all the poach mean, he just needs to give this guy, say, hey, I'm poaching it. Okay, and now he knows, hey, I'm locked up. Okay, nothing changes for the will. I'm stacking the back. If he pushes, I push. It's no different than if it was sky to him. So if 2 pushes out, I push with him. Okay, because if you think about it, now it becomes empty. So that's why I always ask, is the running back involved in the passing game? Because the running back's involved in the passing game, and he's just going to push, that becomes empty to me. And so we can treat that a little differently. So Y's in the C. If he goes vertical, so notice I've got an over front. Mike can't really relate to number 3, not immediately. So who's going to cap the vertical by that? It's got to be this guy. So he's going to tighten up and he's going to poach. He's going to take cheat steps. So 1, 2, 3. He's just going to shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Read in this guy. That's his indicator. If he comes back across, well, he'll just shuffle and then cap the fit. If he goes vertical, shuffle, shuffle. Oh, he's going vertical. He's arcing. Now I'm going to work. If he's arcing to block, well, the play's probably now I'm here and now I can sit here. And most of the time, you're not going to get the arc with the running back away. So understanding quads and understanding it, again, the back is going to tell you a bunch about what you're going to get. So that's poach. So we've got a 10 and a 40. He's in the A gap. He's in the B. We've got our over front. Now he's going to poach. If the Y's in the core, he is not a vertical threat. Now we're getting some, maybe let's say arc this way. We're getting ISO. We're getting power. They're bringing him in to get the leverage point on that. So now I can play regular sky. Okay. Now I'm not worried about it. I've got post control. And now I don't have to worry about post. Now I can really look here. Now, here's the other thing. If they're using him as a blocker and kind of sliding and letting him come in so they're sliding this way and he's setting the edge and they're still releasing this guy, then we can play cloud over here. Okay, and he becomes a number 2 receiver. So again, you don't usually see that with Y off, but always be cognizant is the back in the run fit and where the tight end is if he's in the core or if he's out of the core. Okay, so if he's out of the core, okay, we need to poach and lock this. But understand, you're going to get post control if that guy stays in and blocks. If he goes vertical, well, someone's got to take him anyway. This guy's just going to have to eat it up. The boundary corner signed up for that. I tell my kids all the time, You want to be the boundary corner on our football team, then you're going to live on an island. And that's that you signed up for that. You're the dog. You're the best player that we've got, and that's why you're in the boundary. Here, we're going to be able to support it. We can cone it. Okay, so if we're getting this and they're blocking, and they're kind of playing combo or man, big on big up here up front, and they're just kind of tracking these guys are taking the linebackers. Well, then we can cone that on 3rd and long. All right. Here's what y'all came for. So what are the tags that we use in the secondary to kind of get different looks and different things? Okay. So 1, we're going to play squat technique. The thing that we've been seeing a lot now is people know that we're running cover 2 to the boundary. And so they're trying to get that hole shot right here. Or what they're trying to do is bring that guy inside and run this guy in and out to get him to trigger. So what we do is we tag it with squat. Now, I don't call squat from the sideline. I tell the kids, hey, our cloud coverage this week is going to be squat. And they know. Or we came across a team that was giving us false reads on bubbles, and they were running a curl, so they were running bubble curl. And they were giving us a false read. They were getting that corner, and then that guy was just leveraging. Remember, if you cap it, they're going to snap it. Well, that's what they were doing. We were capping it, they were snapping it, and they were getting this curl right here. Well, that's hard for him to come, especially with a run read and in the back away. He's in the fit. So with back away, he's in the fit. Well, he can't get to that spot, and so they were doing this. It was a sucker play. So we come back after the first series, and I said, look, they ain't doing this on it. They're not getting free play. So I just told them we're going to squat it. So the next series they came out, we got 2 sacks off the same play. They kept trying to run it. We got 2 sacks off of it. They didn't run it the rest of the time. Another time we ran it. I've actually got a pick off of squat from the corner on a fade route where they run a bubble. The quarterback never shows his intentions to the bubble, so the corner just keeps sinking, and it ended up being like 2-man. And the will ended up pushing late, and we ended up getting a pick because the quarterback underthrew it thinking that the safety was on top, and he ended up throwing it literally to the corner. So one of my favorite tags out of our 2 read stuff is squat, where I am not, if it is under 5 yards, so if it's a regular fade out, man, I am not coming off on that out until the quarterback throws the ball. And then once he throws, we'll rally to it. And it doesn't change anything for anybody but the corner. He's just not going to be super aggressive. And what I like about it too is it really beats up number 1 because that's what they're trying to do is get that hole shot. So this is what it looks like. I've got the seam, I've got the cap, I've got the trail. So if I get a fade out, I get a bubble. Let's say I get out curl, I get out fade, I get bubble curl, I get bubble fade. Well, I've got a cap, I've got a trail. It's really nice when they run that post route too. Like if you get an out post, he's inside on top. He just kind of trails it. Will sees that the quarterback hasn't thrown it. So he's late push. So he works the seam and then he bananas out to that out route. And it's been really good. So any negative route equals don't trigger. We're not doing that anymore. And so, camp rules, we're going to run cloud. We're going to take the outs. We're going to trap it. But if we get into a situation, you got to be able to get out. I like to give my kids answers. So to me, this doesn't change anything but the no cover zone. In regular cloud, there is no cover zone. If you get an out route by 2, if he even leans outside, I'm triggering right now through number 1. In squat, it's more of a passive play. Now we're just gonna trail, and I'm just gonna sit under number 1 until that quarterback looks at number 2. And once quarterback looks at number 2, then I'm going to go. Okay. This is a read call. Now we can do this 2 ways. If you are a big press quarters team, you need to have read. Read is just tilting the coverage. Okay. I've got a reduction by number 2. That means he's going to go out. Normally when we get a reduction, he's either coming in or he's going out right now. So all this does is he can tighten up to 8. He's now outside eye instead of inside eye, and he's going to take all of number 2 out. If it's an over, I can either cut 1 to the post, okay? Because if you're getting the double post look, if I get the over and the post, I can cut number 1, or we can trail it. But to me, I like to be able to cut number 1 on this, because if we get the curl or we get the double post, now he can trail underneath of that. And then he's just taking the over route. Now, understand that if you do this, that will linebacker has to take the running back out because it's man. They're man over here. Read. Hey, man. He's locked. We're locked. Everybody's locked over here. The one thing that you got to understand, too, is that if you get some kind of ISO play, he's got to box it. He cannot spill any kind of anything. He's got to box everything. So he's got to make sure that he's contained because this guy's going to be in the middle of the field. He's secondary support. He's out of there. So you got to make sure in the box game that you're boxing any kind of puller or any kind of insert. They've got to be able to box that. Okay, and we're going to clamp number 3. I like this too because you can really get aggressive with him and make him look like, oh man, they're creeping to the box. And so what do? Okay, now we're just going to our leverage read. We're going to throw the out. Well, next thing you know, he triggers down on top of that. And so I like that. This can be tagged as an over. So this is something that we started doing is we started noticing that when teams got reductions, we weren't getting the out route anymore. We were getting the over route because they're trying to out leverage this guy and just run him in here. So what we started doing is we would tag this as an over. These two would communicate with each other. Hey, I've got a reduction. Over. Over tells this guy, hey, you're on your own. I'm now going to make sure that we're going to cone 2 with these guys. If he goes inside, I've got him. If he goes up or out, I've got him. And nothing changes for anybody else except for this guy. Okay. Will's still going to push with 2 because it's Sky. And nothing changes in your box. He could still get a full cover down. He just knows that I've got a reduction. Okay. Now I can probably apex. So you can actually run this as a tag in your Sky. You don't have to call read. Okay. But read is a nice little tag, a nice little change up in coverage. If you're a press man team, to get them to really feel like they're getting us with this fade out. Hey, this next series, if we get this reduction again, let's go read. And then these guys can check to read. We started doing the over tag and keeping the outside line, the safety outside leverage on this because 2, we would get reduction and we were getting the out routes. And so this just gave him more of a natural push down because we were playing our out. This really wasn't a nickel this year. So that's another tag that we use. So this is the alert over like I talked about. If he goes over, I'm taking him. Okay. Now I'm all over number 1. I'm underneath him. If he goes in, I'm all over. And then the corner takes that. So I wanted to make sure you guys got an example of kind of the double post that everybody's kind of in Big 12 country anyway is starting to run. Is this kind of over route to bring this guy down, occupy this guy, and then run the post to nobody from the corner. Basically, it's a track meet between these two guys. And so what we started doing was, hey, if we get this reduction and we know he's coming down, man, you're taking it, and now I'm just going to climb and I'm going to beat this guy to the post with leverage. So that's an example of the alert over. This is one that if you've got a true nickel and you're getting a lot of yo-yo by this guy, whether he's in the C area or he's in the court, and you're getting a lot of either arcing or you're getting a lot of this coming back across, or they'll motion the guy and then come bring him back, and you're getting a lot of that, and you can play man free. Man, this is great because these two guys are funneling the back. If he comes to me, I got him. If he goes away, I got him. If now we can funnel this guy too. If he comes to me, I'm outside shoulder. Now I'm in the post. If he comes to me, I'm down, I'm in the post. So you still get your closed post, but now you're manning this guy up. This is really good if they try and pop you with these guys, or if they do art, because that lets him spill that art. And then now that safety fits out, that corner thinks it's going to bounce, and now he's hammering down there, and you'll make a good play on this. So this is key. I think Saban calls it alert. Don Brown calls it city. We just call it key. I think the Aranda guys call it key. So we call it key. And so you can do that too. That's been really nice to us. The complement to that is travel, which would be to take this guy and set him on top of him behind the backers, and then he just travels with him. Now he closes the post. And so we've done both of those, key and travel. All right. I'll open it up for any questions before I go on. So, Coach, if you could if you've got any questions. And again, all of these, as Coach Camarillo is getting any questions, all of these, you can find all these tags we've run at Midlothian. And then I did some of them at Lovejoy in my previous school. We've ran all of these. Everything that I've talked here today, we're teaching. If you have any questions, my last book, Match Quarters, I go over all this stuff even in further detail. If you're interested in kind of the fits and the fronts and stuff like that with the 425, cautious aggression is good. You can find that on that QR code.
Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
I had a question about the Y off going to the weak side flat when it's not key or not travel.
Okay, yes. Now, let's see. Let me get to the Y off stuff. So this guy's poaching it. If he comes back, so we've got that too. A lot of times too, you'll see that in FIB. They'll put the two receivers over here, or let's say this is the boundary. Now this is the field. What I tell that guy is how much of a threat is he? If they're doing a bunch of split zone and he's not really a threat, then he can kind of leverage that guy, and then he's eyeing that guy anyway. If he comes across, and that I call it naked or clothed. If the guy's naked and that will linebacker, he's all hard up and he's trying to get into that box, or it's FIB and that Sam linebacker, he's just fitting the box and he's not paying attention, and he gets because you'll see that's the good one. You'll get the comeback, you'll get that motion, he'll boot out, and now he's going, we'll hammer that down and we'll leverage that by being kind of outside leverage on the hash. So if I get this motion here, he knows I'm just sitting. Especially if it's FIB, we're going to leverage that hash and kind of be apex, and I'm reading that guy. If he comes across, man, I'm hammering down on that if that will linebacker isn't there. If the will linebacker or the Sam, let's say it's FIB and the Sam ends up taking it, okay, and it's clothed, well, then I'm going to look to this and see if I'm getting a post or I'm getting some sort of a curl and help with that. But no, that's a great question. That's my key. If he comes across, I need to leverage that. If he comes out naked, then I'm hammering it.
Thanks. Perfect.
No problem.
Anybody else? Anybody got any questions? Good stuff, Coach. Man, it's awesome. Appreciate you.
Okay. So again, if you're interested in that, a lot of stuff I talk about, go ahead and check that out. Again, make sure the biggest thing is in Y off, before I move on, Y off, make sure that you're understanding the kind of runs that you're getting. Are they zone heavy? Are they option heavy? Are they gap schemes? And then understanding how your front is going to then dictate that. All right. So my next topic is going to be attacking third down. And so regardless of whether you're a 4-2-5, a 3-4, you're a tight guy, you're an over guy, it doesn't matter. You've got to be able to have some sort of a different front for your third down. And I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway that I've had in the past year. I did a lot of our third down stuff